But it's one of those albums that has some really good high points. I would say the first two songs and the last two songs are the best. And in the middle is just okay, or maybe they need to grow on me. Katatonia is one of those bands that's hard to describe. It's a band that's gone through so many changes over the years and you can't really put a label on them. This is a band where the first few albums sound so much different than the most recent ones. The band is from Sweden, formed in Stockholm in 1991. The two founding members are named Jonas Renkse and Anders Nyström. Their early albums were more death doom albums, but they started releasing more albums throughout the 90s and in the 2000s. They started moving towards a more progressive rock sound using cleaner vocals and more atmospheric sounds. This is one of those bands where it's hard to put them in one specific subgenre of metal. The music is still dark, it's very heavy, but it's one of those bands, they just sound like themselves. You can't compare them to anybody else. Although in this video I will probably make some comparisons, but overall they're very original. This is the type of heavy music where it's not very fast and energetic. It's the kind of music that just makes you think. They play a kind of music that's just about focusing on thoughts and feelings. And that brings us to Sky Full of Stars, released on January 20th, 2023. This is album number 12 for them, released on Napalm Records. And let me first say, this is a good album. It has some high points, mostly the front half of the album and the end half, but we'll talk about that in this video. On this album, you can hear lots of different styles. For example, the opening track is called Austerity, and my first impression was it sounded like an 80s new wave band, but as the song progressed, you hear more of a progressive rock sound. There are parts of the song that reminded me of bands like Opeth and Porcupine Tree. They play with time signature changes and inject a lot of melody. And this song creates a wall of sound filled with different sounds ranging from alternative keyboard melodies to distorted guitars. I really like how the song transitions to the next one, and that's called Colossal Shade. And this song, Colossal Shade, has a nice progressive rock tone. The guitars have a chunky, distorted sound, and the song adds in some atmospheric passages. The vocals are more in a baritone style, like gothic rock mixed with progressive rock. You can hear some keyboards in the background, and the guitar riffs are complex. They change the sound often to keep things interesting. Opaline begins with some strange synth sound, but a very infectious melody. The song has a dark tone, but it's a song that's hard to describe. You hear elements of jazz at the heart of the song, but it's mostly progressive rock. I really like the bass guitar in the song and the album in general. You can definitely hear it along with the entire wall of sound that makes up these songs. I also like how they play with different guitar tones. Sometimes they opt for a cleaner guitar tone to contrast with the distorted guitars. After about the first three songs, I think the album starts to take a little bit of a dip. It does feel a little bloated at times, and that's just a minor complaint, not saying it's a bad thing. As you get to the fourth song, they have one of the singles. It's called Birds, and it sounds like something you would hear in like a late 80s MTV show called 120 Minutes, where they used to play modern rock and new wave music videos. It reminds me of something like that, but with more distorted guitars. The sound is very big, it's atmospheric, they continue with the clean vocals, but to be honest with you, most of the vocals go from that baritone gothic style to the melodic cleans you would hear in a typical Swedish melodic death metal band. Songbirds is pretty catchy, it has some nice hooks, it's melodic. Let me also mention that I like the drumming on this album. It's not the standard, like 4x4 beat. They play lots of complex rhythms, different time signatures, so that's a plus on this album. Like I was saying before, as you get to the middle of the album, it does start to take a dip. The song Drab Moon is one of those that's a little slower. It didn't really grab me. But on a positive note, I think if you listen to it with headphones, you can pick out some things that are pretty cool. I like the spacey keyboard sounds that are mostly in the background, but overall the song is kind of slow. It doesn't really go anywhere. It seems to be more like a depressing type of song, hence the name Drab Moon, but I guess it's just one that didn't catch my attention. Another one of the songs that kind of reminded me a little bit of Porcupine Tree, so that's a positive thing. And then the song Author, it's track number 6. It reminded me a little bit of modern Radiohead. They would start with these like atmospheric and ambient sounds, but after the intro, the song begins to sound more like a Swedish melodic death metal type of song, but with clean vocals. The song is filled with complex guitar riffs and softer atmospheric passages. You get a little bit of guitar shredding in the guitar solo, and that's pretty cool. But another one of those songs where it didn't really catch me. It might need a few more listens. The next song, Impermanence, is one of those songs where the intro is pretty cool, but as it moves on, it becomes a typical laid-back gothic rock song. Another one that didn't really catch my attention that much. It's a little more laid back. It's a song that's a little more on the emotional side. So, for example, one of the lyrics, "You sucked me in and you bled me dry. It's a song we need to cry." So it's that type of lyrics. But on a positive note, I thought the guitar solo was pretty cool. They used the wah-wah effect in that, and I like that sound. So at this point in the album, we're at the last three songs, and this song is called Scalera. It's still very slow and laid back. You hear a little bit of distortion in the vocals, but it's a song that's very slow and atmospheric. More of a modern rock song. Doesn't really have many distorted guitars. One of those songs where they do more of those ambient Radiohead type of things mixed with some modern progressive rock. Now we're at the last two songs in the album, and this is where the album starts to get really good again. I really like these two songs. So the next one is called Atrium, one of the singles. And this was a song that I had been listening to on a regular basis since it came out. And I do like the song. It has a nice groove. It's a catchy modern rock song from like an 80s goth band. It's not a heavy song, but it's one I enjoy. It's just very good kind of song. I think if it was released in like a different time period, it might have been a radio rock hit. So it's that type of song. I think it's very good. And the final song might be the best one. It's called No Beacon to Illuminate Our Fall. And it has a sound that reminds me of late 90s Opeth. The time when Opeth was playing heavy music, but then they would do some softer songs, something along the lines of maybe like the Still Life album, like that type of sound. It's progressive rock, but they have the heavy riffs. They're still there, and lots of time signature changes. This is the kind of guitar riff that you like follow the melody along in your head, if that makes any sense. They play around with vocal styles. They do lots of vocals, not only like just the cleans, but they do more of these, I guess, robotic alien type of vocals. If that, that's the only way I can describe it, I guess. This one also has some like the heaviest guitar riffs, and it's balanced out with some softer, jazzier parts. So the song does make up for some of the more, I guess, boring songs in the middle of the album. So that's all. So as you could tell, I'm not super enthusiastic about the album as a whole. I don't know, but the songs in the middle didn't really catch my attention. It's one of those albums, kind of like Iron Maiden's Fear of the Dark, where they have some of their greatest songs ever, but lots of filler. But at least that's my first impression. It might change over time. I'm also one of those Katatonia fans that likes, the Death Doom sound from their earlier albums. And I know they changed their style probably like 20 years ago, but I prefer the earlier albums. I know bands like to evolve with their sound, and I can respect that. So it's an album with some highs and lows. I think a score of 7 out of 10 is a fair assessment. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't really read or watched any other reviews, so I just try not to sway my opinion. And I'll watch them as soon as this is uploaded. But for now, this is what my score is. That is all. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Thanks for watching. I have some new releases this weekend and early next week. So I'll see you in the next one.